Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Dave, here with Go Gamers, and today we got this PlayStation 5 Slim, and this customer shipped it to us saying that he broke the fan connector while he was trying to go inside of it to clean it. That is a very common issue that I see happen a lot of times, and I have uploaded a video about this issue one time before, but it was with a PS5 Fat. I do PS5 Fats all the time, but this is actually going to be my first connector on a PS5 Slim. These haven't been out that long. I think maybe about a year, and this is the first one I actually had come in that had a broken fan connector on it. So let's go over to the upper cam. Let's see what we can be able to do to get this issue repaired, and hopefully this video will help you guys out. So let's see what we got going on today. All right, as you guys can see, here is our fan connector here. You can see here's our fan connector. We still have actually a couple of the pads which are easy to get up. And this is what we're dealing with. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over to my microscope so we can get a closer look at the traces before we put our connector back down on it. So let's get that done. All right, so we are back. So this is what it looks like under the microscope. As you can see, this main trace still there. This trace is still here, and this trace is literally hanging on by an actual thread. I mean, this is pretty bad right here. But what I'm actually going to do is just actually rip that off and create a whole new trace. So luckily, we still have a lot of copper here where we could be able to put fresh solder down. What I'm going to do is I am going to take my 34 AWG copper wire. And if you want to use anything that I have in my videos, everything that I use is down below in the description. I'm going to turn on some fume extraction. I'm going to put some Amtech flux on the top of this cap right here. I'm going to add a little bit of solder on the top of this cap. I'm going to add my copper line right here. I'm going to wire it over here, so when we put our connector on there, we can be able to solder on there. So let's at least get the motherboard right, and then we're going to clean up the connector and place it on there. So this should be pretty simple and easy, so let's get started. All right, so I put down some solder masking after I added that trace to not only hold down the copper line that I just installed, but also to hold down this pad a little bit. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna turn it on, and I'm gonna scrape off some of the solder mask that I just put on there so we can have enough padding so we could be able to get our solder points down on not only this already existing line, but on the copper line that I just installed. So let's get that done. The copper line looks good, it's secure. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some Amtech flux on both of our anchor points here and here, our new line, and already our two pre-existing lines. What I'm going to do is I'm going to tend my solder tip with some leaded solder, which is low melt solder. We're going to go in and put all fresh new solder on every single one of our pads. All right, so now that is done, now we have some nice, good, and secure lines. Now we're going to turn our attention over to our actual connector itself. What we're going to have to do is clean up this connector, put all new solder on the connector, but we're going to have to remove these traces. And how I do that is just a simple technique. I use flux, and I'm going to use my solder iron. going to go in and just scrape it away. And it's that simple. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in, I'm going to tend my solder tip a little bit. And we're going to go in and start adding solder to our actual connector. So that is actually good enough. Now let's put a little bit more Amtech flux down on all of our pads. We're going to place our connector into place. First thing I'm going to do is solder down the anchor points. Now that we have our anchor points soldered into place, now what I'm doing is I'm going to place a little bit more flux. I'm going to clean and then tend my solder tip with more leaded solder. And I'm going to go in and put some solder down and get it to fully get soldered onto the new traces. So let's get that done. All right, so you can see all of our lines are good. This line is good. This line is good. These are my multimeter probes. This line appears to be good. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put my multimeter in continuity mode. I'm going to put probe here, and I am receiving continuity, which tells me that this is fully soldered into place. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my toothbrush right here. I'm going to dip it in some 99% IPA, and I'm going to go back over to my microscope, and I'm just going to clean it up a little bit. All right, so I'm just going to slightly just see if I can move it around with my tweezers and my finger. This is solid. This is completely into place. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pop the top back on there, and we are now going to test the connector to make sure it works, and we should be good to go. So let's get to it. All right, guys, so here we are. We have it put back together, and the fan is now spinning. And I'm just going to make sure the console can fully boot up, but everything is looking good so far. I got that fan connector installed back in place. We can see we now have a white light, and everything appears to be working just fine now. So we got that connector installed perfectly. All right, guys, so that is it for today's video. If this video did help you guys out with repairing your own fan connector, please go ahead and make sure you like this video. Subscribe to the channel if you are brand new, and if you want to see a certain type of repair with any game console, mainly PlayStation 5s is what I get a ton of, let me know down below in the comments so I can know what type of videos you guys want me to upload on this channel. But besides that, I hope to see you guys on the next video, and I'll catch you guys on the flip side. See ya.